Hello and welcome. I think we're on. Let's check if we're on. And welcome to the welcome to the Learning About Movies live stream, September 2021. This is a very interesting month for movies leaving the Criterion Channel. On this live stream, we cover what's leaving streaming services in order to narrow down our choices and to give each other good movie recommendations. I will be highlighting many of them here. Please follow me on letterboxed.com. Follow me on Twitter. In both places, I'll tell you what I'm watching and give you notes and recommendations. And I've sort of committed to doing a better job on Letterboxd of writing more coherent reviews. They're not really reviews on Letterboxd to me. They're public notes. But I'm trying to polish them a little bit better. So anyway, I see several people in the chat. Welcome, and feel free to ask questions in the chat as well, because I am happy to read your questions, answer them, and any recommendations in the chat are gold. So thank you very much for doing that. Alrighty. Hello to you all. Hello. I see people saying hello. Come on in here. My screen's not showing many people, but hopefully you're popping in right now. All right, so let's get to the recommendations. I'm pulling stuff up here. Let me fix my window. This is Criterion Channel. I do not get paid by them. Maybe I should, because I promote the heck out of them. They are quite good at curating all of the old and semi-newer movies, international movies as well. You know the Criterion collection from, I guess, Prestige. It's a curated collection of DVDs and Blu-rays. But of course, they have the Criterion Channel. If you are international, you can access this through a VPN, I think, a virtual private network. Although I've never done that myself, but you can do it. All right, so what I'm going to do first is just check out the September releases. These on the screen here are supposedly what's coming out in American movie theaters, and I assume maybe for most of you internationally they will be out as well. And so, well, here you are with these wonderful movies. In fact, it doesn't look like a great lineup to me. This is a Marvel movie here. I don't know about the lore. In fact, I just asked 5 minutes ago a comics expert, sort of. Hello, Professor Steamsma, and he said he'd never heard of this before. Shang-Chi. And so there you go if you're a Marvel person. Cinderella, my wife will be all over. But looking at this list, I don't find much that is going to pull me into the movie theater. I don't know about you. It just looks dull and dry. And I think Hollywood, or the studios in general, are waiting until October, November, December, hoping coronavirus will go away. I'm not sure what the strategy is, but everything's getting pushed back, as you know. So I'm looking at Dear Evan Hansen, a Broadway musical, and going, that's a good date night movie. I like movies about deception, so that's one I probably will be semi-interested in. The Cry Macho is a Clint Eastwood movie, and he's 91 years old. Maybe that's of interest to you. Clint's recent movies haven't been so great, in my opinion. And in the Eyes of Tammy Faye, that's a subject matter I know too well. I don't know these people, but the televangelist scene in America, that one is the most interesting one to me. Although there's a number of these that have limited releases. You can see the bolded ones here. Those are wide releases, and then the other ones are limited releases. And I just don't know anything about these. There's so many movies coming out. I clicked on these and tried to figure out which ones look good, and this one called The Duke is Jim Broadbent, about an older man in England who steals a painting from, I forget which museum. It looks kind of interesting, a crime movie involving Jim Broadbent. I'm probably in on that. Sounds great. So that one. And then there's one that Nicolas Cage. Now this is great. Something called Prisoners of the Ghostland. I have no idea where or when this will be released. It looks like a limited release from RLJE Films, whatever that is. But the wonderful thing about this movie is, on the poster, Nicolas Cage, the wildest movie I've ever made. I mean, now this is just a marketing gimmick, straight up. Just hire Nicolas Cage to do this stuff. At what point will this man, Nicolas Cage, just have to retire? He won't have this aura about him. He'll be too old or something like that. I have no earthly clue. So those are the movies coming out in the theaters and beyond some of the streaming services in September. Let me check on everybody. Hey, got people here. Great. Looks like chatting. Great. I don't have tech problems. Thank you. I appreciate it. All right, let's get to Criterion Channel, which this is stacked. I don't think I've seen a month like this in a while, and all I'm looking at is what's leaving the channel in September. It's my way of narrowing down my choices in the movies I haven't seen before. There's so many movies that just go away and you can't find them on streaming services. In fact, I looked this up. I asked you all what movies I should watch that I haven't seen before. And you won't be able to see the front cover, but this is Old Boy. This is the DVD for Old Boy, the Korean version, which I had a very hard time finding. It didn't appear on any of the streaming options that I tried to look up. And so I went to my last resort, which is to order it through Interlibrary Loan. So if the movie is leaving the Criterion Channel, you may never see it again, or it may take some time because it's not on Amazon, Netflix, and so on. So I go to this and then watch what I really want to watch. So let me give you some advice, recommendations. You may take them or not, but half of these you ought to like, I believe. And I don't know which half. You're going to have to figure that out for yourself. All right, the first one I have covered on the channel briefly is Being There. Being There is a movie by the great 70s director, American director Hal Ashby. And I've done a video on Hal Ashby, I love his tone and style, mixing satire and seriousness, social commentary with entertainment. And Being There is a movie that a lot of people know because it's the last movie by the great English comedian Peter Sellers. It is a slow movie, and that may be a drawback for a lot of you, and even for me these days. But it's about a man, we'll call him a simpleton. Is he unintelligent? Is he just naive? I don't know. You have to figure that out. And he somehow gets into the inner circle of Washington, D.C. politics, and they think he's a guru. They think he's highly intelligent, and they think his advice is amazing. That is a very brief overview, but it's a really interesting premise. And every single time we have a change of administrations in American politics, people watch this movie differently. And I haven't seen it during the Joe Biden administration to think about it, but I'm sure it watches in a new and novel way these days. Will you love it? I don't know. It's for the politically interested for sure, but it's fun satire as well. So it's pretty good, at least. And check out my video on Ashby. I love The Squid and the Whale. I've done a video on that as well. Noah Baumbach's, I think, is his second movie, or is it first? I forget. Very richly constructed, very felt by the director, Baumbach, based partly on his life. Clever movie, rewatchable, great jokes. I really love this movie, even though I'm not a New York City movie kind of person. I like this a lot. Anatomy of a Murder over here is one that's on a lot of top whatever lists, top 100. And I see people recommending it. I've never loved that movie, but it is probably worth seeing for its time and place and what it's doing. Jimmy Stewart plays an anti-hero lawyer. I forget how this works, actually. Defending a client who may be guilty, may be innocent. But he's up to a lot of courtroom tricks, and he's kind of dirty and underhanded, even though he's the main character. George C. Scott plays the prosecution, the lawyer for the prosecution, I think. It's a great performance there. It's a weird movie because it's of its time and place. A lot of sort of modern jazz in this movie as a score. And it's long as well. But a lot of people will watch this because it's high on recommended lists. All right, we're just going to go as fast as we can. I love Jafar Panahi's movies, an Iranian director. And here, this is not a film, is a documentary about his struggle to, being censored by the Iranian government. I think he's even... It's been a while since I watched this. I think he's house sheltered. He's contained within his house and he can't make a movie. He doesn't have a camera. They've confiscated his cameras. He's a longtime director, collaborator with Abbas Kiarostami. And he makes this documentary that's not a movie, but it is a movie, but it's not a movie, and he's playing games with that. But it's a really interesting statement about censorship and trying to make art in a time where there's a government crackdown. And this movie probably watches very differently now that we have lockdowns and whatnot all over the world. I recommend this movie entirely. I think it's really interesting and well done. I'll give you a couple more. Brian De Palma's movies. Blowout, pretty good. I like the visuals. If you were a video maker, you ought to study Blowout. Very, very great stuff in that movie. All over the place. And then he's got a movie, I'm going to scroll way down, called Body Double. And I love this movie. I did a video on it. It will be released in a month or two. I think this is one of his best, if not his best movie. It's a really interesting noir. It's an homage to Hitchcock. It quotes Blowout by Antonioni. Blow Up. Wait a minute. I'm getting confused. But the Antonioni movie about the photographer who finds... Blowout quotes Blow Up, but Body Double also does. That's what I mean. And I just love all of the complexity of all the issues coming together in this movie. I like the score a lot. And it's a racy, edgy movie that I find interesting. So... you may not agree with me on that one, but I suggest trying it if you like Hitchcock noirs. This is his homage to Hitchcock noirs for sure. So that's like 6 or 7 recommendations, everybody. I mean, what else can you do with your time? You've got a lot. How many movies are you going to watch this month? And you can just keep going down the list. I watched this Nicholas Ray movie yesterday. It was quite interesting. It's a historical piece. 1949 movie with Humphrey Bogart as a lawyer. Similar sort of to 12 Angry Men. I mean, it's got some similar stuff going on, even though it's a completely different scenario. The Long Goodbye with Robert Altman. There's another noir movie that's based on a Raymond Chandler novel. Okay? And there's a lot of these movies I haven't seen and I want to see, like The Bedroom Window, Mr. Hobbs Takes a Vacation. It just goes on. That's why I'm saying this is stacked, right? Those of you who love Chungking Express by a name I mispronounce all the time, forgive me. Wong Char-wai, probably got that wrong. 2046, though, is sort of a science fiction movie and sort of not. I didn't love it, but if you've seen his other movies, he's always making these sort of interesting variations on the same movie, I feel like. I mean, 2046, if you've seen Chungking Express and Fallen Angel, what's the other one that came before this? There's 3 movies that came before this. You will appreciate what he's doing in 2046, I think, even if you don't love it. So, Night Moves is an interesting noir. It's an anti-noir where the detective sort of fumbles around and can't figure things out. You know, sort of the anti-Sherlock Holmes approach to do a detective story. And, you know, there's Thelma and Louise there. I haven't seen that in a long time, but when it came out in 1991, it was wildly popular. So, I don't know what you're going to do with your time and how you're even going to narrow down these choices. And if you just stick to this, it's going to be tough. But have fun and pick what you want. Moonstruck, good for for dates. Romantic comedy, what was popular. I need to rewatch that because I don't know if it watches as a boomer movie that was good for its time, but now it just would be dated. I haven't seen it in a long, long time, but many decades, probably. Same thing with Thelma and Louise. So if I wanted to revisit 80s, 90s movies, these two in this month would be interesting, and to see if they hold up or not. And then there's all kinds of other great fare on here. I mean, I don't mean to discount any of this stuff. I'm interested in Bingo Long. Oh, man. Okay. So anyway, those are the recommendations for this month. Feel free to have fun and check out what I wrote about some of this, at least Body Double and Blowout on Letterboxed. I definitely have written about those pretty recently. All right, let's go to the chat now. Enough of this. I hope you're having a great week or month or whatever, by the way. I've just had a great movie watching week last week. If you follow my Letterboxd account, you'll see that because I watched Mikey and Nicky. Never seen that. John Cassavetes and Peter Falk. Wonderful duo, directed by Elaine May. And it's just a great sort of friendship movie. One of the better ones I've ever seen, Mikey and Nicky. It's in the Criterion Collection. It's on the channel. Really impressive. I can even imagine teaching it, which is a great thing. And then I watched another movie which I can imagine teaching, Safe by Todd Haynes, a movie I hadn't heard of when it came out in 1995. It's a wonderful movie. You can read my write-up about it, about, a person, in this case it's Julianne Moore, plays a housewife, an upper-class American housewife who thinks she has a disease. The doctors say, no, it's all in your head. And then it goes beyond that into other things. And it's a really great depiction of the question of whether a person is really sick or not. And could they be sick by other things, not just by internal diseases that infect them? One reason Safe is interesting to me right now is that long COVID is a thing. And some places, like insurance companies, are challenging whether it's real or not. Doctors, whether it's real or not. I have a man who lives really near me who's been debilitated for months. And he's walking around with a cane, and he's got long COVID, he says. And he's experiencing a ton of pain. And is it real or not? This is an interesting question. I don't doubt him. I don't doubt long COVID sufferers at all. But in the movie, it's a gigantic question. And what do you do for a person who thinks she's sick, but she doesn't really show medically, scientifically that she is? But definitely there's some weird symptoms and strange things going on in her life. So I like Safe by Todd Haynes, director Todd Haynes. The movie I watched was Brick by Rian Johnson. And it's a fun movie for sure. Another noir. Criterion has a whole series of noirs on here. So, all right, let me get to my chat. Great stuff here, I can see. Professor Matthews, I'm at the very top. What is your favorite Bogart and Bacall movie? Okay, yours is hi Bifer. Yours is Dark Passage. So if I recall the movie Dark Passage, it's been a while. Doesn't that start the first 10 minutes with a long POV take? It's very unusual, the beginning of that. I think it's a point of view shot that lasts for a while, doesn't it? And for that reason, Dark Passage needs to be watched alone. I'm always searching for that sort of POV stuff that comes way before video games. Because in video games, as you know, popularizes point of view shooting and first person camera moves. But there's a long history of POV shots before that, and I think Dark Passage is a very unique example of that. Dark Passage is based on a novel by David Goodis, Goodis, very good novelist, crime, mystery noir in the 40s, 50s, I think 60s, somewhere around in there, in America, and Hollywood is consulting him and using his works. I like the novel a lot better than the movie, just to tell you straight up, but that movie is pretty good, for sure. I think Bogart and Bacall, Big Sleep. What else is there? I'd have to even look up. I can't even think of anything else off the top of my head that Bogart and Bacall did besides that one. So that's the one that comes to mind. There's on Amazon a Bogart Bacall collection. Oh. Why haven't I heard of this? This is probably something you should buy. It's Blu-ray. Something that may be good to watch. What does it have? Oh, Key Largo. Yeah, that's good. And To Have and To Have Not. So, that if you want to go into noir, you noir fans, you can't miss that stuff. So that was a good call and a good way to sync up with the body double blowout noir stuff that I mentioned earlier. Yeah. Yeah, I saw you gave Les Samurai 1 star. I'm halfway through and I have to agree with you so far. What can I say? I am not of the opinion, by the way, that you or anybody else needs to approve of what everyone is saying about a movie. I take a lot of crap on YouTube for saying Parasite is not that great. Tenet, not great, by Christopher Nolan. And a number of other so-called great movies that I don't feel, based on my own ways of viewing movies, I don't feel are great. And so the so-called great movies, Criterion Collection, the Sight and Sound poll, I'm going to agree with it sometimes but disagree, and I have my reasons. And usually in criticism I try to give you reasons. So if you can tell me your reasons why you love or dislike a movie, whether you like it, hate it, or indifferent to it, The reasons are what matter, not your judgment. I mean, no one cares about my judgment. They might care about the reasons why, or they might find that interesting as a different point of view or way to look at a movie. So I did not like Les Samurai at all. I'm probably mispronouncing it. I just felt it was gimmicky. I think that's what I said. But you may love it, and you may have great reasons why, and I may be miswatching it. I'm always of the opinion I could be miswatching something for sure, whether I think it's great, terrible, or okay. So I try to see complexity in movies, but that one I didn't see any complexity in. So hopefully, when you go through the so-called great movie lists, you gotta know some of them aren't great. And some of them are great because of reputation or because a number of people in the past have said so. But we're always reevaluating movies now. So that's what I'm doing on the channel, is trying to help out with reevaluating movies. Hello to everybody in India. I can see several names from India. What did I watch? The Suicide Squad? I did not. Is that any good? The Suicide Squad? Isn't this the second or third Suicide Squad? Is it just the Dirty Dozen with superheroes? I don't know. I don't know Marvel lore. I've complained about this so often. How many Marvel movies do I have to see to understand the next Marvel movie? And are these movies, like most video games, aimed at a segment of the population that ranges from the ages of 13 to 20? So I'm double that age or more. So if it's a complex movie with great, interesting characters that tells an interesting story that resonates with all kinds of social, political, psychological, theological, historical issues, I'm on board with that. I don't even care if it's a kids animated movie, if it's a horror movie, if it's a superhero movie. That's what I'm usually looking for. And maybe that's an older way to appreciate movies, right? Great story, rich and interesting characters, connects with a lot of subject matters and topics, brings them together and sort of mixes them around and lets you see those things in a new and interesting way. That's what I want from my movies. And that's how I sort of judge them. So if Suicide Squad's doing that, I'm all for it. But just let me know. Because I don't know, honestly. Yeah, I can access Criterion from Canada. That's good. Excited for Cry Macho? Yeah. I mean, Clint made in my opinion, a terrible movie. I'm blanking on the title, but it was one about the soldiers on the train. That was just terrible. I'm sorry if you loved it, but it was awful. It was one of the worst movies I've seen in the last 3 years. No doubt about it. We made Trouble with the Curve, which was okay, but we sort of skipped through it very quickly. What else has he made lately? When I claim that he has not made great movies lately, and quite honestly, how could you when you're 90 years old? It's got to be a challenge. I didn't watch that Richard Jewell movie. It could be okay. But I am all for, and I have a video coming out on this, by the way, in a month or two, directors who are very old making movies. In fact, the video is about whether Quentin Tarantino should retire or not at age 50. And my view is no, because I want to see the point of view and perspective of an older person. And just in human history, art-wise, we don't have a lot of 80-year-olds making art. 80-year-olds making movies, very rare. So I'm all for Clint trying it. Good for him. I just haven't. Someone says every Clint Eastwood movie is great. Okay, wonderful. I'm glad you like them. Wait, which translates to the worst movie. Yeah, I didn't see Pig. Is Pig any good? It looked really interesting. Yeah, I am all. It didn't come anywhere near me. Nowhere near movie theaters in my area. So I didn't have a screener access to it. And if you guys know of any people who can get me screeners online, I would love to watch more new releases. I just didn't have access to that one, Pig. But isn't it, what is it, Nicolas Cage, and he's a chef? It's way more involved in that, I know. To me, it was a high ceiling movie, or excuse me, a high floor movie, meaning it, it couldn't be terrible just because of the content and who's in it. All right. King Rat. Yeah, I love that movie. You thought it was okay? Suicide Squad is stupid. Yeah. No, I haven't seen Old Boy. That was one of the premises of the poll. I was asking, should I do videos where I do it's a thing people do on YouTube, which is react to something you haven't seen before. I am not into that genre at all. I don't care. If it's all emoting and emotions, I don't care. I want someone, and I like the ones where it's a musical expert listens to a new piece of music, and then they're able to sort of dissect and think about what's going on in the music. That's very helpful to me. I actually like that. So I was going to try a version of that in my own style. We'll see if it works on Old Boy. Oh, not only Old Boy, but Scarface. Have not seen it. Surprising I've never seen this. I mean, how could I escape college in America in the 1990s without having seen this? I don't even know. And then I got to see A Hidden Life by Malik. So those are three I'm thinking of doing these sort of reaction videos on. I'm scanning through the chat. Wait. What do I think of Paprika? What's Paprika? What do I not know that? Was that on that Criterion list? And is that animated? That's my vague recollection, but I don't recall it. I don't think I've seen that movie. I'm looking it up right now. Yeah, I never did see this, but I was interested in Criterion's. Criterion has the Neo-Noir collection, and they have the art house animation. And I been going through the Neo-Noirs that I haven't seen, but the art house I wanted to see as well. I just haven't had the time. And actually, some of those I don't feel I can watch them with my own children at home. So I've been avoiding those, or I haven't gotten to them yet. And if Paprika is any good, let us know. Yeah, it looks like my kind of thing. Science fiction psychological thriller. About a research psychologist using a device that permits therapists to help patients by entering their dreams. Isn't that Inception? Did Christopher Nolan steal some ideas from this movie? This was made 4 years before Inception, so maybe it was the cultural zeitgeist that has invade the dreams, help people out with their dreams. But yeah, that sounds pretty good. So thanks for mentioning that. I will put that in my list. Thank you, Wong Kar Wai. You have no idea how much crap I take for my mispronunciations, and I try my best, but really I have a terrible tongue. I thought about this as a professor. It's proper to pronounce everything correctly, isn't it? But it also is good in terms of YouTube to mispronounce things. It gets people to comment on your videos, which is good for the algorithms. So I can either fix my pronunciations and seem like I know what I'm doing, or I can not fix them and get more hits. There's the conundrum. I don't know. Personally, I thought Suicide Squad was trash. I'm surprised so many people liked it. When I go into a movie, I try to not have expectations, but probably that's where I would end up. I mean, that seems the most likely. But you always have to give these movies a chance, I suppose. So if enough people I trust are saying Suicide Squad is good or worth seeing, I would be happy to try it. Fortunately, I do not have children at home that love Marvel and beg to go see this stuff. My kids don't care. Why, I don't know. I always provide excellent reasons, or it says you always provide excellent reasons. I find when I disagree with you, I still agree with your reasons. I hope so. I mean, that's the key. To me, that's the key to criticism, period. It's not to say, oh, I liked it. It made me feel happy. You should like it too. Almost all internet criticism is in that vein. And fine, if you want to say just what your judgment was, great. It may be helpful, it may not be. I like strawberry ice cream. I don't like chocolate ice cream. I mean, who cares? but it's interesting to know from a personal standpoint. But the reasons are the heart of criticism, and then behind the reasons are assumptions. And you've got to figure out where the critic is coming from and what their assumptions might be, and that's the fun part for me. Yeah, so anyway, Denis Villeneuve, I'm probably mispronouncing that again, is much, much greater than Nolan. We'll see what people say in the chat. Maybe. Have I seen Hereditary? It's my all-time favorite, I think. Yeah, I did see that. And then I watched his next movie, Ari Aster's next movie, which was, oh no, what's the they're in Norway, or where, Scandinavia, and they're in this weird cult. Oh, jeez. Why am I forgetting? Summerland? I should know those net titles. He is a very intriguing director to me. I think he's got a lot of talent. I think he knows his sources. I know he knows his movie history. I don't find his movies as complex. They're not as... Dare I say they're simpler than they look. That may be just me misreading them. I thought Hereditary was about PTSD. I mean, I watched that movie and I thought, this is a horror movie, but it's really about trauma and the psychological problems of trauma. Now, I'm sure you're watching this going, this is about satanic cult, right? I mean, there's other angles by which to watch this. I just thought at some point some of that stuff was all in the character's head. So I've probably reduced the movie, and I shouldn't have, but I'm anxious for his next movies, and I didn't love those movies at all, but I think they're interesting. I'm not recommending them. If you get scared, that's easy. There's an NBA YouTuber purposely mispronounces. You know, persuasion on the internet, they will tell you to misspell words. They will tell you strategy-wise, they'll tell you to misspell words, to mispronounce, to make errors, deliberate small ones, because that keeps people's attention, gets people to comment. I mean, it's one of the ways that sort of errors are being promoted, which is just that they're good for the influencer crowd. Strangely enough, it's weird. Yeah, okay, I love this. This is so great. Some great recommendations here. I love the red shoes. I actually have Powell and Pressburger. I have a lot of their movies in my mind to do videos on. I mean, the next one for sure for me is A Matter of Life and Death. I want to cover that just in case I die very soon or something like that. I mean, I love the movie A Matter of Life and Death. What's the alternative title to that? It's the one with David Niven, and he's a pilot. And I'm not going to say anything else, actually. Wonderful movie. Really interesting. From a psychological point of view, theological, historical, I just love everything about that movie. So that one and Colonel Blimp. But yeah, The Red Shoes is a great one too. And I have like 6 Powell and Pressburger movies I need to cover. I've only done one, I think, haven't I? Black Narcissus. That's the one I'd covered. So yeah, you're dead right. Red Shoes. I'll get to it one of these years. Will I continue Tarkovsky reviews? Yes. In fact, I made a video for The Sacrifice. And that will be coming out in a couple of months. And we'll get to nostalgia at some point as well, for sure. Favorite films of the last 10 years. I'm sorry I'm skipping over some comments. I love them all. Oh, boy. Okay, so here you go. This is why you follow me on Letterboxd. I may help you with something in your life. So I'm going to go look it up right now. On Letterboxd, for those of you who do not know, I keep some lists, and the lists are for me personally, but may help you. So a number of people come by and look at my lists, like favorite movies. Because I get to ask that question a lot. I'm curating this list. It's not complete. I'm sure it'll take me 10 years to figure this out. But there's enough there to keep you busy for a couple of years. Movies I recommend to nearly everybody. I have my mom in mind. I have my friends who don't care about movies. I've got my children when they turn 18. I've got your grandmother. I've got anybody like that in mind for these movies. I think these are solid. They're popular, but they're complex. They will appeal to general humanity, I think, around most of the world, perhaps. So I like that list. But the list you asked me about, best movies of the 2010s, this isn't complete either, but that's probably where you should go to answer the question, my favorite movies from the last 10 years. I don't think these are ranked precisely. I'm looking at them and they're probably not, but they contain a number of surprises. And one of those is my total disagreement with everybody in the world on the movie Mother, as you can see there. One day I'll get to why I love this movie, or actually appreciate it a lot. It was one of the most panned movies ever, wasn't it? I think it's quite good. A number of these are well known, a number of these are not. As I said, I'm missing some, but there's a bunch on here, and I'm looking at this list going, oh wow, this is a great list. So check it out if you. My list of movies from the last favorites from the 2010s, that wouldn't cover the last couple of years, but maybe I'll expand that for you. So any question like that, check out here, and I will keep these lists, curate them as best I can. All right, time for a couple more questions, and I got Midsummer, Somar. Yeah, that is an interesting movie in light of Bergman, Ingmar Bergman, and I had not watched enough Bergman to fully understand Midsommar. So, do I want to watch it again in order to see new things in it? No, because the ending is just totally warped to me. I don't want to watch the ending at all again of Midsommar. So, it's another one of those movies. I think it's a lot. There's a lot of talent shown off in that, but would be hard to rewatch. What do I think about Woody Allen movies? I have no comment on the man personally. I know that there are a number of humongous moral problems that are perhaps there. So he to me is like Roman Polanski, and maybe his offenses are far less severe than that. You've got a great artist who is a jerk, perhaps, allegedly. You've got a great artist who has committed crimes, allegedly. Right? What do you do with that person? Or a so-called great artist. I like one thing about Woody Allen, which is that he wrote a movie every year and filmed it. I mean, the work ethic is unbelievable. It's like Clint Eastwood. And people should imitate that. There are a number of movie makers who didn't make enough movies, in my opinion. And they should have made more because they had the talent. They had the talent and they had the means, and they just didn't for whatever reasons. I'm always upset at Terrence Malick for taking 20 years off. Seriously, I don't know why. Maybe he has his reasons. I'd love to interview him. He doesn't do interviews. Well, why did Terrence Malick take 20 years off? That was the prime of his life, too. I mean, he was in his 30s and 40s when he did that. Maybe 50s as well. I forget. So, yes, Woody Allen is to be commended for that. And my favorite movie of his by far is The Purple Rose of Cairo, which I need to make a video. My original video it's got a technical problem in it, so I've got to delete that and make another one. But Purple Rose of Cairo is one of my favorite movies ever. I've seen it 15 times, and it is different every time, and I'm always discovering new lines and new connections between different parts of that movie. And I think it's a really great meditation on how movies intersect with reality. In general, how art intersects with reality. He does that somewhat in other movies. What's that one with Owen Wilson? I'm forgetting. The Midnight in Paris. A little bit like that. I'm not a fan of New York City movies, as I said. Generally speaking, it's not my place. I like rural Midwest a lot better. So when you put me in a big city, I'm a little alienated in a movie, but I have no problem with Woody Allen's stuff. Some of it, and some of it's quite good. And some of it's terrible. Right? You got to filter it out through that. Yeah. All right, one more question. Looking for another French New Wave recommend. I've seen 400 Blows and Breathless. What would you recommend next? I just did a video on Breathless that will be coming out in a couple of months. I'm working way ahead of time. Okay, so Breathless is the famous first movie from Jean-Luc Godard, and it, you know, heaps of praise for its technical and stylistic innovations. Breathless. And of course I did a video on 400 Blows, which I actually quite like. Breathless I'm not a fan of too much. But I like Godard and his playfulness. I like movie games to some extent, and he is one of the masters of that. You can also watch Agnes Varda, who's become quite popular recently. Anything by her. I mean, just pick up something from, say, the 60s, and you'll be fine. Godard's a tough one because his are just hit or miss to me. I love Alphaville, his science fiction movie. I think it's very clever and fun. And I love a couple of other movies, but then I hate other movies by him. So that's the trick, is to find the movie. You got to watch 3 or 4 of his movies and just figure out if you just absolutely can't stand him, or if sometimes he appeals to you. And yeah. That's the best I can do for you, is to go to Godard and keep going for a little while, at least in the 1960s version of Godard. I'm going to look up French New Wave because I'm blanking on all the popular movies. You need to watch Orson Welles before you go into French New Wave, in my opinion, because he is the new waver before new wavers. Right? I mean, he inspired them, and I just love his movies so much. I think they're great. You know, Breathless, Truffaut's, Shoot the Piano Player. Jules and Jim is one that's recommended. I do not like that movie, but for various reasons. But you should try that one, Jules and Jim by Truffaut. It's a classic for sure, and it's on the British Sight and Sound poll. It's in the top list. So, yeah, that's a great question, and it probably is a good video to do one on what's the French New Wave. What should you try? What should you start with? Why does it matter, the French New Wave? Because it is sort of revolutionary, and we're still dealing with the aftermath of it in terms of film grammar and style, for sure. You see these superhero movies, they are based on, to some extent, at least certain passages in them, the French New Wave. So, yeah. Well, this has been a fabulous time. Thank you so much. I'm going to look at all these. Oh, Tati, Jacques Tati. Yes, I love Tati. I'll answer this question. What after Citizen Kane, what Orson Welles movie should you watch? So I have a Welles video, and it's old. It's pre my good camera, so it's with my webcam that I'm using now, probably. I love Welles. I think everything is fascinating. Chimes at Midnight is his Shakespeare movie, and that's the one you should watch. Touch of Evil is famous film noir. And you can't go wrong with either one, right? So you could try his Othello, his other Shakespeare adaptations. But Chimes at Midnight and Touch of Evil, and I'm a big fan of The Trial, his adaptation of Franz Kafka's short novella. I love that movie. The Trial, it's quite well done. It's fun. That's another one that plays movie games. And by that point in Welles' career, you have the French New Wave, and then you have him making his 1960s movies, right? So he's influenced by the people who were influenced by him, which is kind of fun to watch that and how that works. Oh, the Lady from Shanghai. It has a very famous mirror sequence in it. It's kind of weird because he has an Irish accent that doesn't quite work, but there are a number of sort of lesser Welles movies that are quite great for certain reasons, but will be off-putting for others. So, yeah. Oh, there's a great question. What's the most terrifying film? The only movie that ever scared me was The Shining. I don't get scared in the movies. The Shining literally did. But that was 20 years ago. I just rewatched it a couple months ago, and it was not scary to me. So, I don't get scared. I wish I did. I'm more scared of what's in the human heart than I am of monsters or things that jump at you on screen. I mean, the human heart. What's that documentary you all recommended to me? That's a scary movie. The one about the Indonesian government agents who were killers in the 1960s. Oh, The Act of Killing? Isn't that the one that several months ago people recommended to me? That is a scary movie. But it's scary not for the reasons you're thinking of, right? It's not horror, but it is. So anyway, that's a great question. Well, I love that everyone from around the world is here. Thank you so much for recommendations. Check out my other videos, as I keep mentioning them, and Letterboxd and Twitter. That's where I'm most active these days while I'm working my 9-to-5 job or whatever I'm doing here as a professor. So thank you, everybody. Hope you have a great month. Check out my channel. See you next month in October when we have fun once again.